All right. It is a good morning. There's rain. Any morning this summer that's got rain is good. Any night, any afternoon. I'm going to go back here. Well, I guess this will work for right now. To tie in here a little bit with your previous presentation, we don't have the Mormon Trail go right in front of our museum, but we do have the Lincoln Highway. And there is another family in Lincoln County. It may be related. They haul rock and gravel, and they call it another load. And they also have storage units, and they call them another storage building. So, hey, you never know. It might be the same people. Lincoln County is lucky in that it has 3 different sites that are significant, if you will, along the Mormon Trail because of what they represent. And number one, we get to be the home of the invention of the rodometer, otherwise known as eventually the odometer. So that's really cool. I mean, if you wouldn't know how far you went if they didn't invent it in Lincoln County. So we talked on this a lot yesterday, so I'm not going to, we had a wonderful presentation on the rodometer yesterday, so I won't go into the details on how it was built. But if you come to Lincoln County and you get to our airport, which is on the east side of town, you'll see at our airport a historical marker commemorating the development and idea of the rodometer. By the way, we're also the first lighted airport in the nation, because that was where the transcontinental mail flight came through at night. So they ran out on the field and lit a bunch of gas on fire and said, we're here, we're here. So I also like to point out, on your right there is White Horse Creek. It was the best I could do. We're having a Phragmites problem along the Platte River, especially in North Platte area, and so it's pretty covered with Phragmites. Bad, noxious weed. If you planted it in your flower garden at one time, shame on you. To give you an overview of it, let's see here. There's the clicker. Is that it? Nope.
It's the middle button.
Middle button. There we go. Right here is White Horse Creek. And why do I talk about White Horse Creek? Yes, the marker is at our airport, but you would have camped very near the nearest water. And White Horse Creek at that time was nice and clean. You saw probably in the previous picture, it's a little muddy now. But it's a very, very windy little creek, and it goes clear up to the north side of North Platte. And so somewhere probably in this vicinity is where they would have come up with the idea for the rodometer. So if you're ever coming out to North Platte, stop first at Trails and Rails, then come out to us at the Lincoln County Historical Museum and stop at this spot. When you get farther along, when you get out to Lincoln County, it's pretty flat. At least in the valley, it's flat. And so you're following along the north side of the Platte River. When you get to Lincoln County into North Platte, the river divides. And you get the South Platte and the North Platte. And so if you were on the Oregon Trail, you would have continued on the South Platte, but if you were on the Mormon Trail, you would have continued on the North Platte side. And when you did that, you would eventually, after about 30 miles, you would reach what is now Sutherland, Nebraska. And just to the northwest or northeast of it is a burial site. This burial site is of a small male infant on the Mormon Trail. And the marker you see there, when you go to it, simply states that this is in commemoration of all of the people and children that died along the trail. I believe 1 in 10 on the Oregon Trail died, and the Mormon Trail was a healthier trail because you had springs coming out of the sand hills instead of the icky water on the south, but it still was dangerous and still disease ridden. And so this particular marker is great because you don't see too many markers that commemorate all the people that died crossing this country. This is the grave site. Supposedly there was a headstone in there. I've never seen the headstone. Now it has a really great growth of poison ivy and marijuana. And the tires do seem like it's bad, but actually that's keeping the cows from rubbing on it. They won't step in on those tires, so it's effective. It's not very pretty, but it's effective. So anyways, that's the marker you would see when you, once again, Mr. Hill, when you step over and past the signs that say do not trespass, that's what you see. I figured they'd first tell me to leave before they shot me. So as you move on through Lincoln County, you can see from this map the infant grave there, and then the road, this right here is the south or the North Platte. And so the road here follows along a bunch of cliffs, sandhill cliffs, right along the edge of the Platte. And yes, now we're able to have a road there because the Platte River is much more controlled. It doesn't flow back and forth like it used to because we have 3 great dams on it. And so you're able to have this nice road here. But as you're going to see, the Mormon Trail had to go this way. And so you come to the next picture. This is looking west from that grave. And you can see how you hear in Thomas Bullock's journal in 1847, Presidents Young and Kimball rode ahead and searched out a road for the camp to go over the bluffs tomorrow morning. Camps went around a hill and passing through a vale. And so that would be your vale. Turning round toward the river, going between the ridges over a sandy road, and gathered on the other side to refresh our teams for an hour by side of a pool. And knowing the pools that gather on the Platte River, it would have been a stinky pool. But you'll see then that part where they go over. But this would be the vale that they saw. Prior to this, the Platte had expanded out wider. Now remember, we're dividing into 2 rivers, and so you're not having the same strength of a river, and so the bluffs start to gather nearer to each other. And so this is where they would be going on the left here, those trees, that's basically the edge of the river. And so they have to go up and over these sand hills. Because if they don't, they wouldn't be able to get through because of the swampy marshes. So before we get to the actual bluffs that they went over, you can see we're lucky. We have a set of Mormon trail ruts or swales right here. They're going right up over those. Basically, if you were down on the road, I like maps. I like overhead maps. I can visualize better for overhead maps, sorry. But if you were on the ground and you were driving along that road that's on the south side there, like I said, it's sheer sandhill cliff. So they had to go over. And the closest they could find was this route because it went through 2 sets of hills. So here are the swales coming down over that hill. They caused, all their wagons and handcarts caused that erosion between those 2 hills. We're really lucky to get to have some really cool swale ruts in our county. I know if you get farther west, you get into more rocky area and they get even more defined. But to be able to say you have these, especially in a sandy area where they could have blown them shut, again, is pretty amazing. So to go back, you have the trail coming up, and now you can picture as they're coming right here and down. That's between, you can see the hill here and the hill here. And so now after that, it's pretty much obliterated because there's a pivot there for a field. But they would have probably camped somewhere over in this area. Because it was so sandy, trying to get those wagons over would have taken a lot out of those animals. But we can't forget that not only were we on the Mormon Trail, but we also had the Oregon Trail in this area. And I like to just mention this because those ruts for the Mormon Trail were north of Sutherland. South of Sutherland is O'Fallon's Bluff, and it is home to Oregon Trail ruts. So we have one area, if you came out to visit there, that you could see both the Mormon trail ruts and the Oregon trail ruts in a matter of 20 minutes, if you wanted to, a matter of 10 minutes if you really wanted to. So where is this Mormon trail? Right here. See the lines? And they go right here. And I like how you were saying that they didn't just follow one trail. Well, they even in the trail, they went in different locations. And you can see right here, this is a wetland. And so sometimes when it was dry, they went through it, sometimes around it. And it's the same if you go back to the Mormon trail ruts. You can see there's multiple lines that they're following depending on the condition of the landscape. Plus, maybe they were pulling their wagons next to their best friends, talking, leaving trails along the way. The cool part is, okay, so you can get to these. This is a rest stop, and they interpret it for the Oregon Trail. There's wagon wheels on here. You can actually go walk and ruin the ruts. And then this is on private property right here, and the family has owned it for almost 100 years, and they have protected it and not farmed it, simply because of the ruts that are on it. They use it for pasture ground, but no, you can see how everything else abuts up to it farming, but they stop to let the ruts go by, which is pretty amazing, because they're making no money off of it or anything. They just know the historical value of it. We were hinting at, you were hinting at earlier, road ranches in the west or eastern part of Lincoln County. There was the McDonald Ranch, Road Ranch. There was the Gilman Road Ranch, and then there was also the infamous Morrow Ranch. Most likely, if the Mormons had crossed to use any of those facilities, basically they were gas stations along the way. They were quick stops. If they used any of those, it probably would have been the McDonald Ranch. It was the closest to the trail, Oregon Trail, or the Platte River, and he was the most honest. The Gilmans were honest as well, but that's probably where they would have, if they had to get any supplies, they would have gone. Jack Morrow liked to steal your animals and blame it on the Indians. And so most likely he was also farther south, so they probably would have avoided him. When they got out here, we were talking about similarities and differences along the trail yesterday, and something that's similar is they both had to go up and around at the same spot here in Sutherland. They had to go up on the Mormon Trail because the bluffs came right to the North Platte. Well, the Oregon Trail had to go up on O'Fallon's Bluff because the trail came up on sharp bluffs right against the South Platte. And so they both had to go up and around and come back down to continue on their journey. So it's kind of interesting that even though they're on two different rivers, and one's sandy and one's clay, they both had to experience similar struggles to keep moving forward. So it's an interesting dynamic, and at the same time, like I said, they're experiencing the same storms along the way. So those are three sites in Lincoln County. If you ever want to come out and visit them, we have the home of the invention of the rodometer. We have an infant burial site, and then also some great trail swales / ruts of both the Mormon and Oregon Trail. So that concludes what I had to say.